I just appreciate everyone coming down for a pre-media day session. I know there's a lot going on this weekend. I know our guards still have a chance, right? They're still competing for that best record, so I know that's a big weekend for Chris Antonetti and Stephen Vogt, and so we wish them all the best this weekend. So we appreciate you guys coming down, being part of this pre-media day with me and Coach, and we'll open it up for questions.
Chris. Hey guys, welcome back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Koby, for you, last offseason, there was a bit of a splash. You brought Max Strus in, George Niang, Ty Jerome. This offseason, it was a little bit different. How'd you just characterize your free agency process?
So I think it was very methodical in that we wanted to keep our best players in town. And you know, we're big proponents of continuity here in terms of the roster, giving this young group a chance to really succeed, and give them a runway. And I think for us, you know, to build the lifeline of your core in this league, in this salary cap structure, is hard to do. And so for us to have the chance to create the runway for this core was really successful and not easy. You know, when you talk about bringing back a Donovan Mitchell, extending Jared Allen 2 years before he becomes unrestricted, you know, signing Evan Mobley to 5 more years at 23 years old. Even last summer, when you talk about Darius Garland's extension, and then late in the summer, you know, Isaac Okoro. You know, these are big core pieces to the Cavaliers and guys that really wanted to be here. And so for us, it was a major success and a chance, like I said, to extend the lifeline of this core.
And then for both of you guys, you know, this is an organization that's coming off back-to-back playoff appearances, 99 wins over the last 2 years, advanced to the Eastern Conference semifinals. At what point do you set the expectations to championship? Are you there right now?
I would say for us, the goal is always championship, especially with this group. We want to win rounds of the playoffs, and that's really difficult to do. To finish, you know, in the Final 8 or Elite 8, if you want to say, of the NBA, was huge for us. Big step for us, right? When you look at the age of the group and our success, but the next step of winning rounds of the playoffs is really difficult. Putting yourself in that position, being healthy, having really successful regular seasons, which we believe is very important, is a part of it. And we brought in Kenny to help us take that next step in a really competitive East, in a tough league. But I think we're right there with some of the best teams in the league and certainly in the East.
Hey, Chris, just to your first question, because I think it's really important. I think continuity is a coach's dream. And a team that's won 99 games the last 2 years. And I think the other important thing about that, it's a young team. So internal improvement is huge for us. That's, to me, because I know next step it's going to keep coming up. So we have great continuity and youth. You know, those two things. And if we continue with our internal improvement, we talk about it, we're not skipping steps, right? We're taking step by step, and I know we've had meetings with each of our players over these past couple of weeks, and we're kind of all on the same page, right? We're not screaming to the mountaintops, and you know, we're going to do this and that. No, we're not skipping steps. We're going to have a great process in place, and we're going to keep improving. I go back to the Bill Walsh quote. You know, the score will take care of itself. You know, if we don't skip steps. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Eric. This is for both of you. When you look at your roster, you talk about internal improvement and that kind of thing. Can you give me a couple specific areas or specific people that you think are right at that position where this is what it's going to do to you know, basically impact you going forward?
Yeah, it starts with, you know, obviously Evan, and just with his age, right, 23 years old, he's just going to get better. You know, just forget about the coaching, forget about the system. Just being that young, there's going to be a natural improvement. So that you know, that's a big one. And I think even the established guys, right? Everyone talks about development, it's about the young guys, but it's about the whole roster. So we're really going to have, kind of key performance indicators for each guy and what they're focused on. I'm not going to get too specific on that, but we're looking for improvement throughout the roster, not just with. But Evan is important because he's a young guy. He's obviously super talented. Koby keeps saying like it's very, very rare for a young guy to come into the league and all of a sudden affect winning. It's just very rare. So we got that piece. We got the defensive piece. Obviously, the offensive improvement is important. So I think structurally we can do some things, and hopefully you'll see that pretty soon what we're going to do with him. But we also want to continue to have him be a great defender that he is.
And Koby, along the same lines too, you mentioned Jared. He had 2 more years to go before he's a free agent, so you extend him and chat a little bit about that decision, and also bringing Okoro back with 3 years, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jared's immensely important to us. I think I sent you the stat about when he's not playing versus when he is playing. I think we're almost like a 500 team when he's not playing, which is remarkable. He's the oldest 26-year-old you'll ever find. It's incredible that he's 26 years old somehow. And this is his second extension. The first one was a 5-year, $100 million extension that everyone was like, whoa, that's a lot. Well, became one of the best contracts in the league. And now to extend them and tack on another 3 years keeps that continuity. He's the core of our defense, super consistent. Obviously the fluke injury in the playoffs where he gets jacked in the ribs. Before that, he played 81 games in a row, 77 regular season games, 4 straight playoff games, and was really playing well in the playoffs. And so we want to grow off of that. I think his next evolution is real playoff success for us, being that anchor. And I think it speaks to, listen, when we traded for him, we were in the middle of our rebuild. He changed the trajectory, and he made the decision to stay in restricted free agency. And that sort of behavior is what we want here, right? The guys that really want to be in Cleveland, to be a part of this thing, is immensely important to us. And I think he's seen some of the best success of his career. Obviously, he's seen an all-star. He sees wins, and he wants to be around. And so him and his representation, we spoke this offseason. Is this something we want to do? Absolutely. And now to have him locked up for another 5 years it is incredible. And it speaks to what we're building here. Again, long runways with really excellent players, great character, great work ethic, guys that want to be in Cleveland. And that echoes the same thing for Isaac. Isaac took a little longer in terms of that negotiation. That happens in restricted free agency. But his character, his work ethic, he only wants to be in Cleveland. Even during that awkward phase when he was in restricted free agency, when he was posting on Instagram, he was still wearing Cavaliers gear, which I was like, yes, that's so saying. So he could be wearing some other stuff, but he was still wearing the wine and gold, working out. So he identifies with this place, and we're going to need him. Coach knows we're going to need that force on defense. There's some really talented offensive players in an offensive-driven league, and we need guys that their bread and butter is to stop or make it really difficult for some of the best players in the world. And as soon as he signed, he was up here, he was ready to go, and he's going to be a really important part of our run.
Hey guys, Kenny, for you, with having a summer to really dive into things, and with Evan in particular, where do you think that the biggest growth for him offensively is still to come? In what area on that side of the floor?
Starts with his usage. I think when you look at the top bigs in the league, or a lot of good offensive teams play through their bigs now. Especially with the 5-out. That's 5-out formation that's dominated in the league. So you guys saw it, and everybody saw it in the Boston series where he had the ball in his hands a little bit more. And to me, it starts in transition. Rebound and push. We definitely want to see more of that because the skill level is undeniable. The passing is elite. But we do want to get him more downhill, right? Like, can he get a little more aggressive to the rim. You know, when he's pushing it, you know, I have my eyes on that rim, and I told him yesterday, you have your eyes on the rim, you're down, but you also are such a good passer, you can make the play. In open gym yesterday, he got downhill, he went to the rim, and he just, you know, threw it to somebody for a corner three. So that's important. In the half court, again, you know, playing you know, kind of a 5-out system, him handling the ball more in that trail position, which is a playmaking position, right? You know, I'm not saying he didn't do that last year, but I think you'll see more of that. And then, you know, geez, for the athlete he is, can he be on the offensive boards a little more? Can he win us more possessions? I think you'll see that for him. I think you'll see an emphasis. So again, incremental. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to build. And the last thing, our performance team is doing an incredible job, you know, building his body up. And I know he's made a real effort and emphasis this summer to getting stronger. He's going to get strong. I mean, right? It's just he's 23, the natural build. And so now we got a real complete player. The last thing is the three-point shooting. We were talking about it, and he's going to be pretty clear what that looks like. But he's more than capable of stretching it. We know that, and that's part of the internal development where we're talking. We're gonna keep improving that shot. But me as a coach, I think I'm more of a, you know, build you up and encourage, and I think with all those pieces, he's gonna keep getting better.
With that three-point shooting, you've been in places where bigs have kind of transformed from guys that didn't necessarily shoot at a high volume to guys that do, like Al Horford in Atlanta and then Brook in Brooklyn. Is that something that we could expect out of Evan, that type of transformation?
Well, I don't know if it's going to go from Brook taking 0 threes to like 9 a game. Like I don't think to that extreme.
Danny does his research though.
Yeah. Like it's just going to be it's going to be in the middle. We just got to feel that. I have a good feel for what it looks like already, the timeliness of it, and we also got to realize we got Sam Merrill and Max Strus and Donovan Mitchell, and Darius is one of the best. You know, I sent Darius and Donovan a stat the other day. They're two of the best shooters in the league. Like, anybody see that Kirk Goldsberry? You know, like it's like holy mackerel. Like so. Yes, we want him to shoot threes, but I don't know if it's Brook Lopez 9 a game, right? This is just going to be a balance. But I think the focus of those first things I talk about and the three-point shooting, it's just going to come. It's going to evolve.
Yeah. Kane, this one is for you. What impact will you have, especially when it comes to the playoffs, to make the Cavaliers go deep?
Great question. I think that's part of the reason we're all here. First thing is health, right? I don't know. Cavs healthy team last year, you know, changes things, right? So I think there's an organizational kind of collective, integrated approach to how we're going to build this team up, where there's not only health but also peak performance in the playoffs. But there's got to be a plan in place. You know, I can't get on the whiteboard here and detail it all out. But that's first and foremost. I do think adjustments are big in the playoffs, and if you don't kind of prepare for that during the year, in February, March, November. Whether that's switching defenses, whether it's an offensive tweaks against switches, but I do think you have to work on that stuff periodically throughout. Not periodically, consistently throughout the year. Those playoff adjustments. So I think that's those are the two big ones for me: health, and then how are we building our details to our adjustments, because we all know. All of a sudden the playoffs come, you're in this series, and they're throwing something at you. Is this the first time we've seen it? Is this the first time we've switched 1 through 5? Is this the first time we've gone box and 1? Is this the first time we played 2-3 zone? Whatever it is, right? We've been working on that all season.
Kenny, you mentioned internal improvement. at your opening presser, you even mentioned, hey, Donovan's included in that group too. If he's whatever top 15, top 10 right now, there's no reason we can't get him into that top 5 conversation. What would that next step look like for him?
Oh, great question. Well, to me, it's a leadership piece first, right? Like what does that look like? You're great player, and he's already a great leader. But us, we've had those conversations of being a great leader from an on-court perspective. Again, I told him I don't think you realize how great a shooter you are. So part of that is great shooter. Part of it is on our staff, me and the staff, is get him easier shots, get him more catch and shoot shots, and then putting him in the right positions. To be more efficient. He's super efficient already, but how do we tweak this system where he's running off the ball more? Can we get you more corner threes? I think we're 23rd in transition corner threes. Can we get you the simple ones? Make your life easier. Maybe instead of getting a grenade at the end of the shot clock, and now boom, I got to make a play. So we got to get him the easy stuff, and then I feel a responsibility for that. Like make his life easier. Are we celebrating screening? When Jared Allen's coming down the court and he sees Donovan, and this guy over there, and he just goes and cracks him, and Donovan comes off wide open. So I think we're going to have a real good plan in place to elevate him to be even more efficient and even a better player.
Koby, last year at this time, you sort of pushed back on this idea that the regular season is, I don't know, less important, or you wanted to put your foot on the gas a little bit last year. Obviously, injuries sort of derailed that. But how do you balance that, keeping guys healthy for the long run, but also maximizing your, playoff seeding and all that?
I think it starts now. I think having an approach to the season, having a plan in place. It's a difficult question for everybody in the league. How do you manage your health? It's something that we're constantly struggling with, not just us, but across the league. How do we become one of the most sophisticated teams in that aspect? We study it. Our sports science department continues to grow. It's a big part of our move to downtown and a new practice facility, bringing the Cleveland Clinic with us, to be in lockstep with us in the same building, to have a battery of testing, to think about this over the course of 5 years, 10 years. How do you keep your best players on the floor, right? And so it's a marathon, and I think it starts now. But when you hear our guys asking the right questions about their nutrition, about their recovery, about their sleep, these are the kind of conversations that make me really happy, really thrilled, because they're thinking about their bodies, they're thinking about longevity, they're thinking about, hey, we want to plan to June, so what does that look like now? And having leadership from the coaching perspective, from the front office and from the performance team, let's get on the same page and let's map this out. And we can't a fluke injury like a ankle injury or something like that. You come down on someone's foot, that's tough. But some of the soft tissue stuff, I feel like we get ahead of. The hamstring stuff, let's get ahead of. And let's put ourselves in a chance to have a really successful regular season. I think, but Coach mentioned it, how are we having a peak performance into the playoffs? And we haven't had that yet. We haven't had that look of a Cavaliers team that's peaking towards the end of the year into the playoffs, and I think that's definitely a goal of ours.
But I think this is important, just from my point of view, is really celebrating our depth, right? Like that's part of it. I think right off the bat, you'll see we're going to play 10 guys right off the bat. I'd even say 11. That's very possible. So we have great depth, right? Like, geez, how many rotation players do we have? Like it's so, and I think by developing your bench, that prepares you for the playoffs, right? Because you never know, right? It's a Richard Jefferson story. Richard was like 12th man, all of a sudden game 3 or whatever, he comes out and he hits 3 like. So that philosophy I embrace. I think you're going to see it during the regular season. We are going to trust our depth. We're going to play a lot of guys, and our main guys. We're going to be really strategic on how we use them. I think that's a bit of a shift. Definitely part of our coaching staff's philosophy.
Hey guys, Koby,
Hey.
this offseason, or after the season, you talked about why Darius and Donovan work together, why Jared and Evan work together on the court, and the net positive with them on the floor together. Now with Kenny here though, what does it look like in making sure that it is undeniable that those pairings work together on the court at the same time?
I think, look, I mean, there's way more data that speaks to it works than it doesn't, right? You don't fluke your way into 99 wins and something that just doesn't work. I think, you know, Darius is an interesting one because I don't think we've given him enough credit for what he's done here for us in this franchise. You know, he's now, as crazy as it sounds, he's the longest tenured Cav, right? We drafted him 19 wins to 22 wins to 44 wins in an all-star season. Then we bring in Donovan Mitchell, we go to 51 wins, and he makes a huge sacrifice doing that. But he was a big part of this evolution of this franchise, us taking a step forward, and quite frankly, making this a cool place to be. I mean, a fun, dynamic, pass-first point guard that made us a national level team in terms of, you know, being on TV, all-star games, you know, the lobs, all that stuff. It was a fun team. What's going on in Cleveland? And that was led by Darius. And I think the last 2 years, you know, he's made some real sacrifices as we've built out this roster. Obviously, bringing in a Donovan Mitchell. I think, you know, no one's more excited to coach Darius than Kenny. You know what I mean? Point guard in his own right, does a great job with point guards, and we need to bring Darius back to that level. You know, that all-star level. He's such an important piece to this thing. And like Coach said, like, you know, there's depth, and we want to be, you know, we're a super talented team. How do we make that work? And in the playoffs, we're going to need that ultra-dynamic backcourt. That's a huge strength of ours, right? That's how we're going to attack teams. Late in shot clocks, you know, everyone's over-scouted, and they take away your first look, your second look, and now it's go make a play. And so to have two dynamic ball handlers like that they're great people, you know, great leaders, and want to be in Cleveland, you know, for me that's a huge success. And the same thing with the bigs, you know, #1 defense, top 5 defense. Evan Mobley, runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, 55 games last year because he got hurt, but he's going to be in that conversation for years to come. You know, why not keep this dynamic defense and elevate the offense, figure out how to elevate the offense. And look, you know, we interviewed Kenny. He was excited about the roster. Like, don't do anything. Let's figure this out. Let's embrace that core four, and certainly that's what we've done from front office perspective and ownership perspective. You know, let's keep this continuity. Let's extend the lifeline of this core and see what we can do. You know, the easiest thing is to break the thing up, right? But like I said, there's way more evidence that speaks to success than not.
Tom Withers, Associated Press. Kenny, excuse me for being
Tom
late
usually
today.
gets the first question, so that's
Oh yeah, well, he's
Hey, I was wondering, other than seeing Steph bury 3-pointers over in Paris, how was your Olympic experience?
oh.
He was supposed to have the scout report too. It was unbelievable.
I was having a great time in this press conference to that question. You know, that was a phenomenal experience, and first from just like the cultural piece, right? France, Paris, Olympics, fast forward to USA, you know, USA versus France, and obviously my relationship with Steph, having been with him for a long time, and it was surreal, really. What did I see? That final game, what was it, 25 million people, like that was the TV audience, it was great. I can't tell you how many people texted me, like, that was so phenomenal, like the FIBA, the whole thing, it was like the NCAA tournament, every game counts, and you guys almost got knocked out by Japan, and like, just all this stuff, and every game was like, there was a lot of pressure because we were the host country, and I said it was almost like going through a NBA playoffs, because every game was playoff prep type, pressure, 27,000 people, you know, at every game, and then, Yeah, Steph and LeBron orchestrated their little two-man game that kind of knocked us out. That was a tough way to go out, but for the NBA, like that was that was a real celebration. I mean, right, every team, Canada had 11 NBA players. We had 6 or 7. Obviously, Team USA. It was just it was incredible. Great experience.
And because you were around Victor as much as you were, and I know Evan is a very different player, but can that be a model for not only Evan, but for you as well, to see the way maybe, he kind of plays on the perimeter, things like that? I don't know if it's
I thought about it. That's a good point. I thought about it this summer, and how do you use a big kind of that talent? And we really structured. We were trying to figure it out with Victor. This guys can do so many things. They're so talented. And similar because they're so talented defensively, so you got that piece. And how did they fit with this kind of new game? So yeah, that helped. I told Koby, I said, one thing about doing this, the Olympics is I'm going to come back a better coach, because I was thinking, definitely thinking in the, how do I help Team France, but also how can this maybe translate to the Cavs? So the Evan, Wemby, they're obviously different players, right? But there are some similarities. But man, what an incredible human being, what an incredible work ethic, and Victor. I mean, France has got to be really happy where they're where they're headed, with him as the lead guy. Yeah, good. That's a good point. There are definitely some similarities between the two.
I'd like Kenny to take this one first, and then Koby.
Yeah.
Kenny, amateur opinion, but so what? When I'm going to give it anyway. When I was watching last year, Koby knows what that's about, but they were very dynamic offensively when the ball was in Donovan's hands, and part of that was when Darius was out, and there was a lot of movement, amateur eyes, but without the ball, with him just kind of being sort of like the sun with the solar planets around him.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, and frankly, some of that seemed to disappear when they kind of got back together. And as maybe the purist, or whatever, I missed that. And I know there was a lot of data also about Strus and Donovan in the backcourt, being pretty good. So when you talk about Darius and Donovan together, I guess the counter argument, which I'm making to some extent, well, what about that?
And I really kind of sold this to Koby, like during the interview, like you, especially, and we'll go to the playoff conversation, because you have to be so versatile in the playoffs, right? Even with the two bigs, right? Like there are series where you need two bigs out there the majority, 95% of the time to win the series. Same thing with the guards. So it starts with the rotations, getting the optimal rotations with both the guard situation and the bigs. But I've also seen a championship one with two small, I think of the Steph and Jordan Poole thing and how that helped us. So I don't understand how two guys who are so talented, who are unselfish, who are both excellent passers, why that can't work. They are complementary to me. And defensively, yeah, and that's also, so what are the three guys around? What does that look like, right? And this is where lineup configuration is really important, especially when the playoffs come. So you have to understand what lineups you put around them. But the Darius conversation, defensively, I've always rated him as a plus defender, and my professional opinion. You have an amateur opinion. I'm going to give you my professional opinion. There is a strength thing there, right? Especially with the way the league's played, right? It's a go through your chest league, right? And there is a strength thing there. And Darius, to his credit, he's gotten stronger this summer. He's going to keep. It's one of our folk. You talk about internal improvement. It's not always on court. It's from there. And I saw that evolution with Steph, right? Like Steph and Darius is in the same bucket. Competitor, elite instincts, defensively. Now it's he's still a young guy developing his body, so he's going to keep getting stronger. So all those things together, and then configuring the lineups. But man, like Koby said, when it comes down to it in the playoffs, you know, and you guys saw it with the championship with Kyrie, you need guys that can get you a bucket and shoot off the dribble threes and all that. So we have that. So I'm confident we're going to keep improving with both of the big combination and I don't even like small guard, like small, like they're both you know, sufficient from a size standpoint for me because of their skill level, Terry.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey, Koby. From the outside looking in, it seemed like, you know, when Donovan signed the contract extension, it would be just a monumental kind of development event for the franchise. How would you characterize it, just in terms of importance of the big picture, and kind of what does it say about him and the way he's embraced everything here, and to the point where he's keg bowling in the Muni lot, you know, just a couple weeks ago?
It's a great point. You know, I think, I don't know, BJ can attest to this. Maybe the half hour after we traded for him, he was already going to another team, right? So like 2 years ago when we made the trade for him, and those swirling, you know, sort of rumors of where he wanted to go, and he's been all in since day one. And that's not to say he didn't think about different situations, not to say that he hasn't, you know, in his time around the league, talked to different players was what they've done. But when you hear him talk about this place, he says, I finally found a home, which is great. I mean, that's what we want Cleveland to be, right? We want guys that want to embrace the city, embrace this organization. I think, you know, he found two of the best years of his career here, which is immensely important. He found success, he found playoff success, but he also sees us putting in place a great future, you know, with young, talented roster around him, which we think can be championship level for years to come. And he's very, very smart. He's very intellectual in terms of his thought process and his plans. He has very, very high, lofty goals. And we talked about that a lot this offseason. But you see him, you know, we say 10 toes down, like he's embraced this place. He's happy, right? You know, he's smiling. And I think it's a testament to the organization, to Dan, to the Gilbert family. When people walk through these doors, I think the first thing they're impressed with is, man, there's a real emphasis on winning. You know, the amount of resources that this organization has. Now, this is not a mid-market team in terms of our resources. You know, Dan puts us in a position to really compete for the best athletes, bring them to Cleveland, and I always say, find your best self in Cleveland. And that's what he's done. And so, you know, his extension allows us to continue this runway, continues to allow us to compete for championships for years to come. And again, like, you know, that's the whole point. You took a huge risk by bringing and acquiring a 5-time All-Star that was 25 years old at the time, 26 years old. And you got to sell him on the place. And he's all the way in. And it's awesome to have a partner in Donovan Mitchell like we have now, to create this atmosphere, you know. And you know, the coach doesn't want me to brag, but like we've had guys in this building after Labor Day, like right after Labor Day, led by Donovan Mitchell. And so when you have your superstar leading the charge back to Cleveland, when you could be anywhere else, LA, Miami, New York, that's huge. And the work has started this off season into September, and you know, he's an incredible leader, and obviously one of the biggest trades in franchise history, and certainly one of the best extensions in franchise history.
Koby, we're pretty early into the new era of salary cap and aprons and all that. I'm wondering, as you guys get ready to go back into that world this year, next year, whatever, have you learned anything yet from the teams that have already in there, and did that play a role at all in trying to keep the nucleus together before you hit aprons?
I think, you know, Jason's it's a good question in terms of, you know, the new collective bargaining agreement and just how restrictive the second apron is. You know, we don't want to nerd out. John Nichols is here. He does our strategy, and you know, he could do a separate session on this whole new collective bargaining agreement. But for all intents and purposes, the second apron is almost like a hard cap, and it really debilitates your ability to improve your team, to make trades. If you're in it for too long, it even freezes a draft pick years out. And so you got to be really strategic on what you do with not even so much your space. You know, we're never going to be a cap space team, but operating over the salary cap and into the tax, and not going too far into the tax that it takes you away from the ability to improve. And I think, you know, Jason, we're still studying it. You know, there's 2 or 3 teams last year that went over the second apron that had tough summers this offseason. If you don't reach that pinnacle and you can't get better, what does that mean? And you have this astronomical tax bill. You know, we're really fortunate that Evan Mobley was as good as he was for the years that he has been, you know, under rookie scale. You know, and this is the last year that we get to have that benefit of Evan Mobley being under rookie scale. You know, he jumps next year, and then we probably most likely will be in the tax. But how do we operate within that? And I think, to your point, one, absolutely, you want to extend your best players. You want to keep your best players in town. You know, that's absolutely always a strategy. But to control your destiny with your best players under contract gives you a lot more sustainability, a little bit more leverage in terms of your negotiations with other teams if you have to go that direction. But you know, we certainly have looked at it. We studied it. It's only been about a year now. Even more restrictive policies are coming in this year now that it's fully in place, and we're going to continue to study it and hopefully stay away from that second apron. But there's definitely a portion of us looking at it saying, you know, keep your best players under contract for as long as you can before you get to this zone where almost the NBA doesn't want you to be in. You know, keeping your most talented players under contract. You know, we'll have that ability to continue to do, and then it just becomes a discussion of how much Dan wants to go into the tax. But we've never been afraid of that. It's more strategic of when do you do it and when do you become a repeater. You know, we're fortunate to have ownership that's not scared of the number. It's when we go in and how good we can be when we're in.
Spencer Davies, Cavaliers on SI. Kenny, you brought up Darius earlier, and I'm just curious because you're talking about how him and Donovan are some of the best shooters in the NBA.
Yeah.
How do you get someone who is as unselfish as Darius and used to being that way as a point guard to kind of be a little more aggressive with a three-point shot, whether it's in the trail and transition or just even on pull-ups?
Yeah.
Take more threes, right? You can ask it. We want Darius to take more threes. It's okay.
I sent him that and he sent
great
me back.
question.
Oh, he goes, I got to pick up my volume. Yeah. He's got to shoot more, but it's not that simple, right? Like that's where the coaching comes in, and that's where strategy comes in, and that's where I know when Ricky was here, he came off a lot of off-ball screens. You know, can we add that variety to this offense where he's not just whatever 90% pick and roll, right, and having to create a lot on his own. Can we create, much like Donovan, create more easy catch and shoot? And he's a really good, when you look at the number, he's really good coming off ball screens. And I think we got really good screeners. Obviously, adding Tristan helps with that. You know, you got another great off ball screener, but that's definitely going to be a point of emphasis with him, getting him more catch and shoots off the ball.
And then with Evan, just as far as him being maybe more of a playmaker, how does that kind of work with Max, who's always off ball, and Sam's always running around in the half court? Like, is there a way to kind of unlock that part of that game too?
Yeah. So playmaking means getting your best shooter shots. So that's going to be part of Evan's. You know, that's going to be part of his job. It's downhill, go, you see a gap, go and go to the rim, get fouled, get to the free throw, all that. But it's also like, I see Max, in the corner, and am I going to go DHO with him and get him a shot? Or I'm in the trail position, Donovan's got the ball, and I see Sam Merrill on the wing. Am I going to go going to go screen for him and get him a shot. You know, it's really shifted in this league. Bigs have become, you got to be a good decision maker, right? Like not only with the ball, but without the ball. That's going to be, again, part of his evolution. That's going to be part of our coaching emphasis. It's multifaceted. It's definitely not one thing where, you know, maybe we're a Giannis, he given just downhill every time. No, this is, we got a lot of variety, a lot of shooters. So we're going to have to, you know, figure that out with Evan. But I'm pretty confident with the passing ability, the IQ, and then the threat to the rim. You know, the threat to the rim. And also we can space them sometimes. It's exciting. It's going to be really exciting to see his growth this year.
Koby, you were excited about the signing of Ty Jerome last offseason. He played 2 games for you. What is his current status health-wise, and where does he fit into this?
Yeah, so he had a really good offseason. And then if I had to rank open gym in September, MVP of September. Now again, September is meaningless, but he's been balling. And it's good to see him healthy again. I know how much it just killed him to miss that amount of time last year. We could have certainly used the depth at that position, certainly going into the playoffs. And you know, after All-Star, we were down some guards, so it would have been nice to have him play. You know, he's multifaceted. He can play 1 through 3. He's got great size. He's got great skill, basketball IQ, and so he's going to be ready for training camp. And he's been balling in September. You know, again, September doesn't mean much. We go into October; it's going to be more meaningful. Preseason, right? See what that looks like, and then obviously we go into the regular season, and it's up to coach in terms of the rotation. But he's giving himself a chance.
You talked in July during your intro press conference about the importance of superstar-coach relationships and what you learned from Ty and what you learned from Steve Kerr. Just curious, over the last 3 months, what kinds of things have you done to foster that relationship with Donovan?
Well, you know, like Koby said, like really kind of proud, right, that our best player was the first one in the gym. When he doesn't have to be here, all our OTAs, all these guys aren't obligated to hear. So for him to lead that, and those were conversations, right? That's the first part of this, right? Like, man, getting you in the gym changes everything. It changes everything, and not just from your teammates, but just from an organization. When he steps in the gym, it changes things. So from that standpoint, I'm like really excited. Like it's a great like kickoff to our relationship. And now that he's in the gym in September, we've had just so many like casual conversations, which are the best, right? And I'm watching him play, and I might just go over there and say, hey, maybe we could have run a wide there, or you could have hit Evan on the pocket. We're building this before the training camp actually starts. Just great start to this relationship. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be the hard times, and those are going to be the real test of our relationship. But man, I feel like we've gotten off to a fantastic, and not just with him, right? It's with Evan and Darius and Max and J.A. and Karis reconnecting with him. The fact that all these guys have been, like, I am so excited. Like, I think if I just went into this first day training camp, hey everybody, let's go to the video room, start teaching. Like there is just already, I have a great comfort level with this group, and they have a great comfort. What I see, they have a great comfort level with them, between them, right? Because what did Darius tell me the other day? Like, Coach, we vibe. Like, this group vibes, right? Like, you can't say it any better than that. Like, that's makes my job a lot easier. Again, the real test, as we know, when things get tough, you lose 4 out of 5. Oh my gosh! Like, what are those? What does leadership look? What does our relationship look like during those times? But the fact that we started off in a good, in a good place, that makes me more confident we'll be able to get through those tough times.
I mean, it's not just Donovan. I think coach has been really intentional. Like, you think about it from Tom's question about him coaching the Olympics. He'd been very intentional with his time this offseason, right? And so whether it's from Paris to Vegas to make sure he spends time with our summer league team. But our varsity guys are out there too, back on the plane, back out to Paris, finishes his obligations out there. Immediately, the first trip is back to Greenwich, Connecticut, right? And now he's in the gym with Donovan. He's sending me and Mike Gansey some footage of Don shooting, and I'm like, I didn't even know you were making that trip. That was his first trip back, right, from Paris to Greenwich. And then he's making a trip to Nashville to spend time with Darius. And then he's out in LA, with Evan. He's been very intentional with his time, right? And so when we're asking guys to come back in September, it's like, absolutely, I want to be there, right? Because I've already spent time with you. I've already had lunch, I had dinner. I talked about everything not basketball related, but how I'm going to help you. And, this is what he does. He's made, great connections with guys right off the jump. Right, and that's a huge testament to who he is. He's going to make great connections. He's going to give you highly specific plans, personalized plans for your development, your growth. And we've seen immediate returns already, which is his ability to connect. And it's a basketball piece here. This is how we're going to grow you. This is how we're going to help you. But he's being humble. When you talk about traveling thousands of miles to go see guys where they live. That speaks to who he is, and it's very important. And it wasn't just Donovan. He traveled across the country to go see Evans work out, and now Evans back in Cleveland, and they're working. So it was a monster off season for you, but really successful off season.
Appreciate that.
Koby, this is the first time in franchise history, I believe, that the team's going out of state for training camp.
It's the first time?
I'm pretty sure out of
Wow.
state.
Out of state.
Got
it. Certainly first time, yeah.
But how did that come about, and what was the purpose behind it? And I'm assuming you're still going despite all
We're
that.
hopeful. Obviously, as the sun rises and we're getting reports from the ground, we're hopeful. Our friends down in Sarasota and Bradenton and IMG are doing well. We have a few days for it to obviously some of the storm surge to recede, and hopefully the power's on. We dealt with our own hurricane this summer. How many people's power out were here? I was out for 5 days. It was ridiculous. So I'm hopeful Florida has more capacity than we do to get back online. So we're really hopeful to do that. I think for us, we found a lot of success in Paris as a group. We really did. Obviously we won the game, but to have the camaraderie of the team together for a week in a city, we loved that time together. We grew as a team. I think guys got better during that week. We found camaraderie. We found great success, obviously, in the game. And so how do we sort of replicate that? And we haven't, since I've been here. This is year 13 that I've been with the Cavaliers. We've never done anything like this. I think the timing is right to sort of switch it up, have a different look and feel in training camp, create some great vibes going into the season. IMG Academy is remarkable. Multiple football teams have had their training camps down there. Speaks to the performance piece that we want to implement this year. We weren't just going to do it because it was Florida and sunny skies. Like, we wanted to come out and make this about basketball and get better, but create this camaraderie. To be together, almost like a retreat. Let's attack this thing together, and really come out a better team. And we're thrilled that the new coaching staff will get to be a part of us being together on the road and figuring this thing out. And so really, really hopeful we'll still go. But it's a great question. We haven't done this in a while. But I will say Paris kind of was like, wow, what if we take this show on the road? We do such a phenomenal job. Mark Cashman, who does our basketball operations for years, he's like almost tenured at this point, put together this trip, huge part of the Paris trip, and we make these things a lot of fun for the guys, make these things a lot of fun for the staff, and we come out stronger as an organization, and certainly after Paris we were stronger as an organization, so that was the thought process with going down south.